the first week of Pennsylvania spring gobbler season, and I was fortunate enough to fill my second special spring gobbler tag here in Pennsylvania. We've had a lot of rainy weather this week, and I talked about last weekend rainy day gobblers. Well, fortunately, Saturday, this Saturday, May 11th, the morning was really nice in my area. There was some fog, but skies were perfectly clear. Wind was calm. It was a little bit colder when I drove out. My truck thermometer said 39 degrees, but make no difference. And here's my observations here in western Pennsylvania, southwest portion of the state. I'm seeing gobblers strutting a lot in fields with hens, one or two, sometimes three. It's May 11th, so I'm starting to wonder if not the rainy weather has affected some nesting, and that's not a good thing. When the nests aren't successful, the hens will obviously go back out and frequent the gobblers and start relaying. In some cases, they often will relay a nest a second time. I think even a third time is possible, but I think most likely a second time if we don't have a successful nesting, it's not good. And wet weather is not good, and not so much because it makes the eggs wet. It's because predators can smell the scent of the hen on vegetation leading to the nest, and it's a lot easier to find the nest because you have a scent trail to the nest, which is not good. So hopefully it gets a little better this week in terms of the really rainy days, and we're having days where it's raining basically off and on all day, and that's not real good for spring turkey nesting. But hunting has been really good. I got my second one today, May 11th, and my dad shot his first one May 10th. That's Friday, yesterday. So we're doing pretty good. We're thankful that we have the opportunities to hunt. And just let me say something about this hunt. I was hunting private land and bordering, obviously, the neighboring lands. And I had a hunter come in after I was already set up. I was on the edge of a field. They roost below the field in a creek bottom, or right on the bank leading down to the creek bottom, between the field and the creek. It slopes down, hillside. And neighbor came in. I heard him. He must have been clearing an area to sit down. I heard him cracking limbs and everything. I thought to myself, here we go. And I often find myself having more success in terms of not running into hunters on public land versus private land. I feel like everybody has permission on a lot of private land. It seems like you get more permission to hunt turkeys than you do deer. There obviously, if you do the statistics, there aren't as many turkey hunters as there are deer hunters in some cases. But the turkey hunting population of hunters in Pennsylvania is strong. It's one of the top states. We have one of the top flocks in the nation. I'm grateful for that. But he came in. He made a lot of noise, in my opinion. And then turkeys started gobbling in a roost. There were several. And he's calling to a bird in a roost. I mean, a little tree yelp if he's close, so he knows you're there, maybe. But I just like to sit still until I know the turkey flies down. And how do you know the turkey flies down? The gobble sounds muffled, especially now, and you can see all the foliage is on the trees. It gets real muffled when they hit the ground. They sound like they're real far away, but they could be 100 yards away. It sounds like they're 200 yards away. So you've got to be out in the woods. That's why scouting is so important. You know the difference between when you're out there in April, the beginning of April, scouting, and you hear a gobbler when there's no leaves on the trees, and you're hunting and you're scouting right up to the season. And I like to keep a distance. I don't like to get into right where they roost. I just keep a distance. You scope them out with binoculars and you listen. And you figure out, okay, is he on the ground? Is he still in the tree? And you can learn the difference, especially if you're scoping out with binoculars and you see a turkey land and you heard him in the tree. You're like, okay, I see him land and now he sounds different. You remember that, and you put that together in your mind. It's like any sport, really. You practice. If you want to be successful, you have to be at it on a regular basis. It's just like anything you do in your life. Man, I love this stuff. There's nothing in the world that I would rather do. If I could do this full time and find a way to do it, and some people have, it's not that easy. But if you find a way to break out into hunting industry, that's awesome. But I'm gonna keep doing this. I like to teach people things. But he called to the bird in the roost. Bad. I waited till I knew it was flat, and then I made some calls. Luckily enough, the guy's a good sportsman. He knew I was there, and he left and went further in, deeper into his land. He was pretty close to the border. I was probably 50 yards off the border, facing in towards the property I was hunting. And but he was right on me. I don't know. But so I sat up on a field and I put decoys out about 20 yards, 22 yards from me, and the birds were roosted below the hill. I like to put my decoys out to the left. I'm a right-handed guy and I can swing left. My right is pretty much no good because you can't really swing, and you can swing left probably nearly 180 degrees more easily than you can to the right. You can swing a little bit to the right, but it's very awkward and hard. So I have those decoys so that when the turkey sees them, they're coming up, and I know these birds are coming up. I've scouted and I've got reports from the landowner. These birds are coming up this edge. And do I kill birds because I'm a championship caller? No. I have a lot of success because I know what they do. You pattern them just like deer. They have routines. You've heard people talk about strut zones. You've heard people talk about roost sites. That's all true. You've got to find them. And where they roost in March, April, versus where they roost in May and what they're doing in May, it slightly changes over time. Some of it's pretty consistent, and then there's food sources. That changes things. You got green up, you've got food everywhere. You've got insects, you've got you got all kind of stuff growing. And turkeys, they're opportunistic feeders. They'll pretty much eat anything that's green, buds, shoots, flowers, insects, worms, snakes, anything. And so I knew they were coming up the edge. I put my decoys to the left, and I had a hen come right in. She was basically a hand's length away. I thought she was going to hit the tip of my shotgun barrel. And then I spotted a gobbler coming out. It was a great setup. I was in bushes, not as thick as this, but there were gaps in it. It was kind of like I was in a blind. I was tucked away right in there, and I ended up getting about a 40-yard shot or so. I wasn't going to let him come any closer. With the Mossberg that I use an older 835 from the 90s, best gun ever, and it's a pump shotgun. And I took him anything under 30 yards with that gun, 35 yards, you'll blow them up pretty good, and I don't like to do that. So 40 yards, might have been a little over. So he went right down, really didn't. He just twitched, didn't really flop much. But the lesson from this is the decoy set up, and don't call them a roost. You wait till they fly down. The reason being is you call to them in the roost, they're going to be looking. They don't see you. They're not going to fly down in your direction. They'll wait for something they can see, especially the older gobblers. And the hens, they fly down, they usually start moving, and the gobbler sees them. It's obvious. So if you wait till he flies down, he's on the ground, he doesn't have the visual as he does when he's in the sky or in the tree, and he can see down. So you call when they fly down, and more likely that he might decide to break your way because he's curious. You know, the testosterone's high, they want to breed, and as I said, he sees a hen, and weather was good. It works out really well, and you can have a lot of success that way. This bird ended up weighing 21 pounds, about 1 inch spurs, about 10 and 3/4 inch beard, so it's a good bird. But I still think he's only a 2-year-old bird. We had a really mild winter, and these birds are big. I called one in that I didn't get a good shot on Tuesday, and man, I bet you he was 25 pounds at least. And he had a rope beard that was probably close to a foot long, and I'm not kidding. I've got to start getting this. I've got to get some equipment to get some of these hunts on video. So, all right, guys, take care. We've got a lot of time left in the season, and I'm gonna get out hunting with some other people, see what we can do. Take care. Good luck, and happy Mother's Day tomorrow.